I am never going to lie when I think one of these episodes of Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, is actually really good. And I think this was a really, really good episode of just, I would say the live action shows in general, overarching all of them. This is one of those like top tier episodes that are like, this is what we can really have. This is what they can actually do with Star Wars. They just need to keep it up. And that's what they need to do. Dave Filoni is really, really doing something here. And I think a lot of people expected major praise for certain things like Anakin coming in. And it's going to happen with this one. So let's just get to it. Episode 4, Fallen Jedi for Ahsoka. And this is definitely the best episode. By far, we're halfway through the season only, of course. We don't really know what's going to happen in the later half. But I think everything in this episode, for me, was done right. There's little nitpicks you can always have with this show. But there's little things, even besides that big cameo at the end, that are just done right, for me, at least. And I think it's done really good. So let's get to it. So you start out with Ahsoka, Sabine. They're still stranded on the planet. They basically have to go after their villains now. The villains, because they can't really go anywhere. They're trying to contact Hera, and they can't. They got to get their ship going back together. We cut back to Shinhati, Morocco, and Balin's Skull. They're just kind of there. They're ready to go hunt down Ahsoka and Sabine, and they send out Shin and Morocco to go after Sabine and Ahsoka, basically maybe just even slow them down. I don't know if they intended on totally stopping them or not, but yeah, their intention is to at least slow them down. So they do find their ship, and that's why they're able to go after them. So the droids that are always with them, they attack Huang, who's actually outside of the ship trying to get the ship fixed. And Huang, there's not much of Huang in this episode, but he holds his own, man. He really fights back against these droids. He fights pretty well. I don't know if he would have won, but he does have some good fighting, defense maneuvers when he's under attack. And I think there's maybe there's a little bit of that in Clone Wars. I have to rewatch his episodes in Clone Wars, but it's good. It's kind of cool to see him fighting the droids in this and not just kind of like get knocked down and that's it. But he does fight the droids a bit, kind of cool to see that. But then obviously Ahsoka and Sabine come in and deal with them. There's I don't know how many of the droids there are, but there's also some of their little soldiers that attack. And they realize now that they need to go out and stop them because they know where they are anyways now. And it's kind of no point to really stand around. So Sabine is finally in her, Mandalorian armor. Thank God, because, last episode was weird because she put it on at the end of episode 2. Didn't have it in episode 3, and then now she's finally back into it in episode 4. And I gotta say, we're doing all this Sabine Jedi stuff, but this is a great episode that presents why she should not be a Jedi, because she has so many other skills. She's so good at different things because she's a Mandalorian. We do cut back to Hera. There's not much Hera in this episode, but she does play a part in the story. She still wants to go help Ahsoka and Sabine. So she obviously didn't get the help from the New Republic. They didn't want to help her. She's still going to go out on her own, and she's going to fly off and try to help out in any way she can. She does end up picking up a few stragglers with wanting to help Ahsoka. So we do get to see Carson Teva or something, Tega. I don't remember his name. Carson something. He's that pilot guy in the New Republic we keep seeing throughout The Mandalorian, and now he is in this show. So he is in Ahsoka, and he's there to help her out. Although, as we do see later, that I don't know how much they can really do. There's not a whole lot they can do when things are already unfolding as they're trying to get there to begin with. So, but she does get a little squadron of X-Wings with her, and then she flies off to go find Ahsoka and Sabine. So Ahsoka and Sabine are confronted by Shinhati and Morocco, and this begins the endless line of lightsaber duels in this episode. There's 3 different lightsaber duels in this episode. I think they're all pretty good. They're not prequel level or anything like that, but they're really good. So we get Ahsoka versus Morocco. This is in the trailers, just a few shots of this. So Ahsoka versus Morocco, this mysterious inquisitor looking guy who has been in the last several episodes now. We don't really know who he is. Well, we'll get to that. Shinhati and Sabine fight again, and this one I was a little worried about this because I knew they were going to fight again. It was in the trailers too. There's a few shots of this fight, and as we've been training with Sabine, wanting to use the Force and all that, I was fearing that with the fight with Shin and Sabine, they would end up having Sabine ultimately in the end win and do some crazy Force maneuver for the first time and win the fight. That doesn't happen, and I'm very glad that doesn't happen, and I really like the way that they did it. So, Before we get to that, though, apparently this was leaked. I actually heard the leak right before the episode even came out, so I did kind of have an idea of what might happen, and it did happen. So the character of Morocco, I personally didn't really care who it would have been. Like, I know there's been speculation all over the place on who it could be, some Star Killer or Ezra or something like that. It's not. It's literally not a character at all. It is Night Sister magic. So it's like a big suit of a person. It's a creature that's created by Night Sister magic by Morgan Elsbeth. And you can see once Ahsoka cuts down Morocco, because she handles him pretty quickly. They clash a little bit, but then she handles him pretty quickly. Obviously, I kind of expected that for Ahsoka. She handles him pretty quickly, and then he literally just blows away as smoke. The green Night Sister magic smoke stuff just like bursts out of him, and he falls to the ground. So he wasn't even a person to begin with. But it's kind of interesting because the last episode he did speak a few times. It's like he was this like created entity for Morgan Elsbeth to just kind of run around and be a soldier. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I think that's really interesting. And I don't really, like, I'm not too disappointed at all, because I didn't care if it was going to be someone we knew or not. I didn't really have much interest in him, I'm going to be honest. There's always those people that want to speculate beyond belief, and I get it. It's fun to speculate who it is. I'm not going to really sit there and, like, get my hopes up for any type of character to maybe come in or not. I'm just going to wait and see what happens, and this is what happened. And I'm not, like, too worked up about it. I do like Shinhati and Balin Skull a lot more anyways, so it's like, whatever. Cut down this other side guy that's there, whatever. It's not really that important to me. But yeah, he's not even really a person. He's literally just like a manifestation of like Night Sister magic, and it's kind of interesting. You might like it, you might not. I don't know. It depends on if you were really hoping for it to be somebody that we knew, or, you know, they did keep it mysterious with the mask and everything. So, you know, there are going to be some people who are like, well, that's it. So Shin is not happy about that. She realizes that when Ahsoka wins, and then Ahsoka runs off, and Shinhati is very mad now. She's really worked up about it, and she continues to fight Sabine. So we get to see a few shots. Morgan Elsbeth and Balin Skull are near the map, and they're trying to get the map coordinates all set up. So they're trying to finally officially like get the coordinates to where Thrawn is, so they can use the hyperdrives that they now have in this big ring, so they can get to Thrawn in this other galaxy. And now they are in the process of getting the coordinates set up from the map into their systems so they can blast off. That's literally the whole goal for them in this episode, and we kind of see it throughout the entire episode as it's loading. It's literally a big loading screen, and they're continuing to get the data so they can make their travel. Ahsoka confronts Balin. She gets to him pretty quickly, actually. It's, you know, she cuts down Morocco really easily, and she gets to Balin. And again, I've said this in a lot of these episodes now. Like, my favorite shot of last episode was Balin's skull. Ray Stevenson's Balin skull. May he rest in peace. His character is really cool. He really is. I think he might be the best part of this, like, this whole show so far. I really like Huang too. But, I mean, Balin's skull is incredibly intriguing. He really is. And his presence is just incredible. So, you get a little bit of dialogue between Ahsoka and Balin, and they kind of talk about Anakin for a moment. Like, Anakin spoke highly of you, and different things like that. And we kind of heard that in the trailers, too. But there's not really too much, and then they get into their fight. So obviously they're going to fight. We did see the fight, you know, kick off in the trailers too. Again, a lot of these like trailer shots are basically from like these first 4 episodes. So we're going to see a lot of like the lightsaber fights from this episode just specifically, because most of the lightsaber fights have now happened within this episode. So anything going forward now, we haven't really seen in the show, besides like that shot of Thrawn for like that quick moment. But really everything else is kind of like new territory, so we'll see where it goes. But they do kick off their battle, and before they even like do their lightsaber fight, they do an interesting like little standoff where Ahsoka kind of circles him a bit, and they kind of stand there like some sort of samurai, like watching each other, watching their moves, changing their stances and stuff. And it kind of reminded me of Maul versus Kenobi in Rebels, where they kind of stood there for a while, and Kenobi was very calm. He knew what he wanted to do. He was watching Maul, and then he handled Maul incredibly easily, and Maul died. It was like 3 quick shots and the fight was over. It wasn't like this, but it just kind of reminded me of that. So Ahsoka and Balin, they kind of watch each other for a moment, and then the fight ensues. And I really like the fight. I think it's not like prequel levels fighting, but I think it's a really well done. It's better than like the Morocco and Ahsoka fight in episode 2. It's definitely better than that. Balin Skull has a presence to him and a power and anger to him. He's not really fighting all. You can very tell the different style of fighting and the way he fights compared to Ahsoka. They both fight in a very different way. It's not just two people running around slashing like lightsabers all over the place with no care or understanding of what they're doing. I think there is a certain strategy to lightsaber style of how each of them fight, and I think it's kind of interesting to watch. Again, you can see like the anger and the frustration within Balin, but you can also see he is a force to be reckoned with. He is a pretty powerful force wielder, and he's really good with his lightsaber, and he's a good match for Ahsoka. And I'm glad that we're not just seeing Ahsoka run around and take everyone down with ease. She's very skilled and highly skilled Jedi warrior base. She's a Jedi, whatever. I'm going to call her a Jedi. She's a very skilled Jedi at this point. And her meeting someone at matching her power, basically, at least in this fight, is kind of cool to watch. So this is another part of the episode with Sabine and Shinhati where I really like how they handled it, because I didn't want Sabine to just beat Shin, because Shinhati obviously has a very much bigger understanding of the Force. She is a Force wielder, and I don't want Sabine to just suddenly learn the Force and defeat Shin in one quick move and that's it. I would have hated that. I think everybody would have hated that, because it's beyond ridiculous. Sabine cannot use the Force. Maybe she'll move something a little later, but I really like what they did here, because they show that Sabine may not have the Force, but she has power in some way. And she holds her hand out after she's basically defeated almost, and Shin is literally telling her, you have no power. And that's true in one sense. It's she doesn't have the Force. And she can even tell, you don't have the Force. And I hope they continue to just tell us that, because I don't like the Jedi stuff that you're doing with her. Maybe she'll move something a little later. I don't know. But she is a very good Mandalorian. And the next moment, you see her shoot off her little rocket blasters off of her wrist. And then she knocks Shin's lightsaber out of her hand. So Shin has to basically blow smoke and get away. So Shin basically escapes from Sabine. And Sabine didn't really win, but the duel just kind of split off. They didn't really continue to fight. And I like that, because I didn't want Sabine to win, and I knew they weren't going to kill Sabine either, so they had to end it in a way where it made sense to me, and I think it worked well. I really do, because it showed off that Sabine, she's a good Mandalorian. She's not a Jedi. She's not a Jedi. I'm going to continue to say it, even if they do more of it later. So the fight between Balin and Ahsoka is pretty intense. You got some cool shots. You could see the even matchup between them two. And Ahsoka is trying to basically get a hold of the map so she can, destroy it or get rid of it, because she doesn't want them to have access to the coordinates. So she does manage to get the upper hand for a moment and grab the ball, the map, the star map. And when she grabs it, it burns her hand. I guess it must have just been hot, because it was activated and it was in the system and it was showing the coordinates. So she just grabbed it from there. But she grabs it, it's really hot, she throws it right to the ground because it's burned her hand. And then Balin has begun to get the upper hand. So after that, Ahsoka's kind of wounded on her hand a bit, her hand is burnt, and then Balin gets the upper hand, and now he's starting to push her closer to the edge of the water, the cliff. So there is a cliff there over the water where this star map, this whole display is. And Ahsoka is there, and she sees Shin actually return to Balin in the back. She's like, what happened to Sabine? Sabine, where is Sabine? And then a moment later, she literally force lifts Shin up into the air and throws her against the wall, kind of knocks her out for the moment. And then Sabine does end up returning with the star map. So she comes in, and they may think that Sabine's dead for the moment, but then she comes in, she grabs the star map, and she holds her blaster to it. So it's kind of I will shoot this, and you will not get your coordinates if you don't let Ahsoka go, if you do not surrender, because he's literally got Ahsoka held up to the cliff. Balin does not care. He cuts down. He doesn't really cut down Ahsoka. He knocks her down off the cliff, and there she falls. They're not going to kill Ahsoka halfway through the episode or halfway through the series, so we'll get to what happens to her at the end. But Ahsoka is not seen for the rest of the episode until the end, so she's gone. After that, Balin and Sabine have a very interesting interaction. And this is another scenario where I think they could have done something so beyond predictable, and then like the bad guys have to re-get together and figure out a new plan because the good guys got some upper hand, and now we're back to the start where the bad guys still have to try and get Thrawn over halfway through the show. So Sabine obviously has the star map in her hand. They're not done getting the coordinates yet, and she is threatening to completely blow this thing up so they can't get the Thrawn. But Balin knows what Sabine also wants. He knows that with finding Thrawn, you will also be finding Ezra Bridger, and he knows that she wants to find Ezra Bridger. She wants to find Ezra very, very bad. She is desperate to find her friend, and he uses that against her. Obviously, because if she destroys the star map, she won't make it to Ezra as well. And, this is a conversation that was brought up early in the episode with Ahsoka and Sabine, where, we may just have to sacrifice and be like, we can't let them get to Thrawn. And if that means we can't get to Ezra, then that may just have to be how it is. And Ahsoka really tells Sabine, you have to make sure that happens. We cannot let Ezra be the reason why they end up finding Thrawn. And ultimately, it comes down to this whole thing is Balin promises, I will make sure that we will get to Ezra too, and I promise you, I will give you my word that we will go and we will find your friend, we will find Ezra, as well as I will find what I want, and that is Thrawn. We want to go find Thrawn. And this is the moment where I'm like, okay, Sabine can be she could just blast it. And then the villains have to regather, and they have to figure out a new plan. And that is something they very well could have done, and then drag out this whole finding Thrawn thing a little longer, and it would have been weird. And it didn't happen. Now, I think it is the best decision because it's interesting. Sabine, she didn't join him or anything like that, but she did give him the star map back because she wants to find Ezra. And even after she thinks he might have killed Ahsoka, she still gives him the map because she really wants to find Ezra. And I think that is a really well done scene that could have been done in a really stupid way. It could have just been done in a really dumb way and then changed the story for the worse. And instead, it propelled something really interesting that we're going straight ahead with the villain's plan. All the villains they have what they want. They are winning. And I like that. So after they put it back into the star map, they get the coordinates back up. They get the download complete, basically, of where the coordinates are. And then Balin destroys the star map. So he's making sure no one else will get this coordinates. No one else will get this map. I am going to destroy this in the most cool way ever. He just lights his lightsaber down. And he destroys the star map. So the star map itself is destroyed. But in their big hyperspace ring, their big ring ship in the sky, it has the coordinates now. They have the coordinates in their system. They know where to go. And they are ready to leave. That's it. They have got what they need and they're ready to go. So it lifts into the sky. It's ready to go. And then comes in Hera and her X-Wing crew. And I also like this. This is another thing that I think was done just really well. They come in to save the day. Oh, Hera's going to come in and blast things up and, destroy things and save Ahsoka and save Sabine and everything will be swell. No, everything will not be swell. Hera comes in and they are completely useless. Completely useless. They're powering up their hyperdrive and you got some cool shots. And then probably the coolest visual shot of this episode is the hyperspace scene. The hyperspace hyperdrive scene is really cool, and it's very convenient that it's a big ring, so it goes through them, so that doesn't really incinerate them in an instant. But yeah, they go to hyperspace, and Hera and the X-Wings, they couldn't do a damn thing. They couldn't do anything, obviously. And Morgan Elsbeth even says that, like, just ignore them. They don't matter. We have what we need, and we have the power to just get out of here. And they do. And you got this really cool shot of the hyperspace ring, and it's different. It's very different than what we normally see, because this is another power. This is another level of hyperspace travel. And we are going to another galaxy now. So this is like next level stuff. And then it sends all the X-Wings into basically destruction. There's like 2 remaining at the end. Only 2 X-Wings survived. They ended up like colliding together, blowing up. Obviously the Ghost is going to be fine. Hera is fine. There's like 2 X-Wings left, and it took out like 2 or 3 other ones. So it's a mess. Hera is literally useless with her X-Wing crew. And I kind of like that, because it just, this is a very serious threat. And the fact that the good guys had literally no chance. We're only halfway through the show. So if the good guys get some sort of major victory halfway through the show, I think it would be kind of weird. I'm really liking the pacing we're going with this, where they got what they needed. They're ready to go find Thrawn, and they shoot off to go find Thrawn, and now we have to pick up from there. So that's where we leave it. They're going off to find Thrawn. They have zoomed away with Sabine, and Ahsoka is missing for the time being, at least for like Hera and Chopper and everything like that. They don't know where Ahsoka is. Huyang doesn't know where Ahsoka is. We also saw him at the end, like wondering, where is Sabine? Where is Ahsoka? Well, Ahsoka is a certain place that we have seen before. This is a scene that we're going to be wondering what's happening for the next week. We're going to be wondering how this happened, what happened. There's been a lot of talk about the world between worlds from Star Wars Rebels. That is the in-between force place that we saw in Rebels, the end of season 4. It was literally like that, like one of the last 2 or 3 episodes. Like it was before like the final 2 episode finale of Rebels. They went into the world between worlds, and they saved Ahsoka from Vader. Ezra went in specifically through the Lothal Temple. And she's back. How is she back? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe she died again, because Ahsoka always dies and somehow makes it back. I'm thinking maybe she died again, and this is how, you just end up here when you die as a Jedi. I don't know. I really don't know. That maybe they'll probably have to explain something next episode, I would hope. But she is in the world between worlds again. I gotta say, it looks a lot cooler than it did in Rebels, obviously. I mean, it's the live action visuals are just going to look different. I think it looks a lot better. The world between worlds in Rebels was interesting. It was very kind of basic, though. You had like the black void of space, and then you had the white lines of the portals and stuff where Ezra was walking, and it looked cool. But this is like another mystical, cool representation of it, where now like the paths in the world between worlds, it's like glowing bluish. It's like a bluish white now, and it's all sparkly, and you can see like the galaxies and stars more visually in space there behind her now, and it just looks cooler. I think the world between worlds looks a lot better in this show, and I knew we were going to see it. Didn't know how it would be portrayed, because it's super weird. And I don't know how you're even going to go back there, because in Rebels, they did say that, like, they closed the portal. They destroyed the portal because it was the Lothal Temple. They can't get back there. Somehow we're back there again. So there she is. She's standing in there, and she's hearing things. And it's like, how did I even get here? Just wondering how I got there. And she's hearing things. And we cut to like a very similar thing that they do in a lot of shows, where it's like you're going to reveal something behind the character. You blur everything, and you hide their face. Their head blocks what's behind them. And Ahsoka stands up, and she hears something. She hears a voice. Hey, Snips. There he is, guys. There he is. And we knew this was coming. This was in the trailers. There was a whole trailer dedicated to Anakin talking to Ahsoka. We knew it was coming, okay? There is Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker in the world between worlds, just standing there. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know how that works. It's weird. They're going to have to tell us what's going on, because I don't get what's going on. Is this like a Force ghost of Anakin, and he's able to look normal because they're in this weird Force reality thing? I don't know. Is it even Anakin? Is it like some sort of weird hallucination or something? I don't know how World Between Worlds works. We were only there for a moment in Rebels, and then we got Ahsoka out, and then both kind of ran back into their portals and escaped. And that was it. We didn't really explore much more of the World Between Worlds. I think we're going to explore a lot more of what this place is now. And, there's been these long rumors now of Ahsoka seeing, like, what she could have done if she went to Mustafar and, fought Anakin, or went there to convince Anakin, to not go to the dark side or something instead of Obi-Wan. There's been long-standing rumors like that. But there he is, guys. And I gotta say, it doesn't look perfect. I think they're doing CGI on Anakin with Hayden Christensen this time. So he doesn't look like a 40-year-old Padawan from Attack of the Clones and Kenobi. I didn't like it. I didn't like Kenobi. It was cool to see Hayden in Kenobi. I hated Kenobi, though. I think the story in Kenobi was terrible. But I'm so happy they're at least doing something here. He still looks different. They're trying to give us the visual of this is like Revenge of the Sith Anakin, and it looks a lot better than Kenobi did, for sure. But I mean, at least it does look different, but they're still doing something that looks so much better. And they obviously did some sort of de-aging or smoothing of his face, so he doesn't look as old as he is now. He's not like really old now, but he doesn't look like his 20s something anymore, young adult that he did in Revenge of the Sith and just the prequels in general. He just, people age. That's how it works. So I'm glad they did something with Hayden here, and I think it looks really good. Now we've only got that quick shot. Maybe it'll look really weird next episode, and it'll be very off-putting, but it's not like we're reconstructing Luke's face or something like we did in Mandalorian, where we're just kind of like softening up Hayden's face a bit and make him look a little younger. I don't think it'll be that big of a problem. There's not much to really de-age. Just make him look just take some wrinkles off or something. I don't know. I think it's working so far, and I'm curious to see what they'll do. It is a very big cliffhanger, that is for sure. And I think Dave Filoni will do Hayden and Anakin a lot better than whatever Kenobi was. The writers on Kenobi, the directors on anybody involved in Kenobi has no damn idea what Star Wars is about or what these characters are about. Dave Filoni does. Whether you like Dave Filoni or not, I think he knows this stuff far better than anyone else involved in these Star Wars shows. Dave Filoni's stuff has been the only stuff that I sit back and I watch and I'm like, this is incredible. Now, my feelings on this are a little hesitant because I'm not feeling like it did after that Luke episode in Book of Boba or, Luke at the end of Mando. I'm not like losing my mind right now. But I watched this episode, I'm like, this is what we need. This is what we need for Star Wars. And I've always said it, and I'm still going to say it now. I don't think Dave Filoni right now and this show is going to save Star Wars in some crazy way because the brand itself is in a very bad place. It's not in a good place. A lot of the shows are duds. I don't think they have an idea of what they even want to do with this franchise anymore. We still have some weird shows coming out later. Who cares about The Acolyte? The people that are running that show are running their mouths and saying things that just like... Dave Filoni is the only guy there that has any sort of respect for George Lucas's story. And you can tell. You can so tell. And he is still doing his own crazy, different new things. Like all this stuff, like with the World Between Worlds and seeing Anakin like this again. It's like, this is all Dave Filoni. Like this is, I don't even know if George would do stuff like this or anything like that. This is all like new crazy stuff for Dave Filoni. But it still feels like a sense of respect for George Lucas's story. Now, you could also make the argument, where the hell is Luke in this story? Where is Leia? Where are like the big main characters that were so prevalent in the originals that helped defeat the Empire to begin with? Where are they now? That is a very valid question. Like, where is Luke right now? Where is Luke when Ahsoka is going to stop Thrawn and suddenly she's seeing a vision of Anakin? It's Luke's father. We had that whole story of the original trilogy. Like, where is Luke? Right? That is a very valid question, okay? But I think it's still fine. I think it's still pretty good. And I don't mind following Ahsoka either. I really don't. I know some people have an issue because it's like, okay, well, we're just following Ahsoka. Why don't we follow Luke? Where is Luke? And I get that. But I also just know that the Star Wars brand and the whole story is so mishmashed at this point. You either take this or you just don't enjoy any of it. And if you don't want to enjoy any of it, that's a very valid stance to take because it's been so jumbled all over the place with the story. Like, I'm just going to take it for what it is in its own little bubble, its own little story here with Ahsoka and Rebel stuff. I'm just going to take it as it is. This is what Dave Filoni can do with the story at this point, and I think it's really entertaining. I really enjoyed this episode. And, yeah, we'll see where the show goes, man. But I think it's, again, this doesn't mean the ratings are going to shoot up like crazy and it's going to save Star Wars. But I like it. We'll see where it goes, though. But I really, really like it.